The Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder are caught in a crazy series right now. We're going to talk about it here on Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover.
You are Locked On NBA crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Snazzy little intro there. Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover. I'm your host over here, Ryan Blackburn, joined by Rylan Stiles over at Locked On OKC Thunder. Rylan, you were just at Game 5. What an incredible game. What an incredible moment for your guys.
It was a fun game to be at. It was a electric atmosphere, an atmosphere that also had nervous energy for a large chunk of the second half, especially after Jokic hit that ballerina turnaround three, which I thought Jalen Williams from the Thunder summarized perfectly. You want so badly to throw your hands up and say that's a crazy shot, then you realize it's Jokic, and that's just what he does. And the Thunder were able to outlast Denver, and I think that the Thunder's depth shined in. I thought that Denver was a bit fatigued at the end of the game, but ultimately a gutsy win for a young Thunder team that we've all questioned if they had that kind of poise and championship resilience in them at this age, and they did it in Game 5.
Incredible win for them, incredible opportunity for them. This series has gone back and forth. It's been one of the favorites around the NBA, I would say, and just not really a surprise given the way that things have gone here. Everybody, thank you for making us your first listen, first and foremost. Always appreciate you folks joining in on Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder. Game 4 felt like a 50-50 game. Game 3 felt like a 50-50 game. Game 2 did not feel like a 50-50 game. That was not how I would describe this series. Game 1 did. So we've had 4 50-50 games in this series where things have gone back and forth and you just don't know who's going to pull it out. 2 of the games Denver was able to, 2 of the games OKC was able to. And I'd call Game 2 the Thunder talent gap as a way to sort of describe that. Am I characterizing this correctly? Do you think that there's another way to characterize what we've seen from this series so far?
No, I think that you're exactly right. I think that people shouldn't have undersold Denver coming into this series. I mean, we go back to our crossover, and you were a little bit down on the Denver Nuggets, and I picked the Thunder to do it in 7. They're on track to right now after winning Game 5. But I just think that Denver had a couple problems in the regular season that prevented them from the 57 wins that they got a year ago, from the 68 wins that the Thunder got this season to tie with them again. Just their depth, which like you just can't run these guys into the ground the way that you are right now through the course of an 82-game season. And then I would be curious on your part of this. Denver, to me, always had the talent of, when you get to a playoff rotation where everyone except for Oklahoma City is playing 7-8 guys, their 7-8 guys are tough to beat, man. Yeah. And now that they're re-energized and locked back in for a new coach, and that can be right, wrong, or indifferent for how they treated Malone and didn't kind of give this effort for Malone, but they are giving it for David. And so it's like, now that they're giving this effort, they're a really talented bunch that has had to battle through a lot of adversity. The quick turnaround in Game 1, Michael Porter Jr., I give him all the credit in the world for going out there and competing and watching this whole series live, both in OKC and in Denver. He's trying his butt off out there, man. Yeah. He just physically cannot do it. He physically cannot produce for a sustained period of time outside of Game 3. And tonight he had some tough misses, and that's sort of out of their control, right? You can't control that he got hurt, but their top 7 is really good, and their top 7 is championship caliber. And then you saw what I think that you guys have talked about in Locked On Nuggets is at the end of this game, whenever the Thunder stayed poised and they could rely on their depth, they were just able to outlast you because you didn't have the option to go to your bench in Denver. I think that the decision to stick with Jokic to start the 4th, even though it played out in a loss, was the right decision from David Adelman. I really do, because you just had no other choice. And I think that it was well thought out to start him in that 4th quarter. I think that the depth really is hurting Denver, but their top 7 is championship caliber. If you consider the Thunder title favorites, Denver's top 7 is right there.
That was always the hope. That was always the dream for Denver, that you didn't really need to worry that much about 8 through 15 if the top 7 was the way that they were. And I do think that they've acquitted themselves really well. Do you think that they've surprised you more positively than you expected heading into this thing? Because you did still pick Thunder in 7, so they had to win at least 3 games in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be tough to surprise me more just because they had Thunder in 7, and like picking a 68 win team shouldn't be controversial.
Sure.
That you pick a 68 win team in the second
No,
round.
I think that was about as unconfident of a pick as you could possibly make for a 68 win team.
Yeah, and I mean, like I know that the Denver Post had Thunder in 5. You had Thunder in a quick series. Like this Denver team should have done this. I think that where I get more confidence in Denver long term is that like this has been a terrible Jokic series outside of the bookends so far of like 1-5 have been really
Yeah.
good, but it's been an awful Jokic series. We mentioned Michael Porter Jr. has only gotten to have 1 game, and I know that he's very polarizing just from reading Swipe of Cam's Twitter account. He's way better than what he's showing you right now. I really do believe he's a talented basketball player, and so it's like if he was healthy, then that helps you. If Jokic was just normal with his touch in some of these games, then that helps you. And like you're not to me. Obviously, whenever I picked Thunder in 7, I didn't think that they were far away, but they're really not that far away from like big picture NBA competing.
And that's good to hear, I think, from the outside, just because it has been a tough year for the Nuggets. It has been a really stressful year for Nuggets fans, just in general, where you have to go through the firing of your coach, you go through the firing of your general manager on the same day. The series ups and downs in both of these series, you have a long, drag it out 7-game series versus a team that, yeah, most people pick the Clippers, honestly, but Denver should be, in theory, the better team based off of preseason expectations. And then they got through that, and then they immediately won game 1 in what was a massive surprise. And that immediately kind of flipped the script for me. The fact that they got 2 games off of this Thunder squad, I do think is an accomplishment. And the series isn't over. Like they still have an opportunity to win this thing if they really dig deep. I don't expect it, and it's going to be very difficult for them to do so. But when you have Jokic playing like this in game 5, anything is possible at that point. Denver, outside of Jokic and Murray today, went 13 of 46 from the field. Just a really horrible, bad shooting game from the supporting cast overall. In theory, that should get better at home. But I do think that we've kind of seen, just when you boil it down for both of these squads, they're like the strengths and weaknesses have kind of canceled each other out in a lot of ways. They've played each other to a standstill other than game 2.
Yeah, and I mean, like I think that it would play out too. Just these two teams were literally tied with Minnesota, like 3-way tie for number 1 seed last year.
Yeah.
This year, the Thunder deal with horrendous injury luck, and it doesn't hurt them because they have so much depth. Denver doesn't have that depth to lean on, and they have like the internal stuff with the coach and how that all went down, and the GM, obviously. It's like Denver had a lot go wrong for them to not be in the top 3 seeds like they were a year ago.
Sure.
And now that they're here in this big moment, like you should still feel good. Like the Thunder, if they would have lost game 5, I feel like would have been eliminated. I think that they would have been too young to respond. They would have been too young to win 2 in a row, closeout style against Jokic. For Denver, this is kind of the path that was always going to be there for you. Steal 1 in OKC, at least get 1 at home, ideally get 2, and then lose game 5. And then now you have Jokic in your home arena where role players typically play better at home.
Yeah.
So you have that factor of like you would pray that your supporting cast plays better than they had the last 2 nights at home in game 6. Then you have a 1-game sample size with the best player in the world. And it's like, for as much as we can dive into the minutia of what went wrong for Denver tonight in the Paycom Center to lose this game in game 5, Jokic was almost enough to beat them single-handedly as the guy who scored every bucket inside of 10 minutes for Denver outside of the end of game Jamal Murray layup. Like he scored every bucket to keep them competitive in this game in that fourth quarter with all that went wrong for Denver. So like Denver, I don't think should be tucking their tails by any means of trying to win this series, because they were still right there in every game but game 2. And game 2 was just to me, I mean, it's a classic Denver anomaly that they have every series. So there's 1 game a series, it feels like, where Denver just doesn't show up that night and everything breaks against them and they were just never going to win that game, that singular game.
Well, I was hoping that was game 2. That was not game 2, unfortunately. It was game 5, where you get the crazy Jokic game. Unfortunately, it doesn't go down for them. But hey, the OKC Thunder are taking this. They are in a good position to be able to close out the series. On the other side, why don't we talk about whether they can close out this series in 6, or if they're going to need a game 7 in order to get there. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover. Today's show brought to you by good friends over at Wayfair. The days are getting longer and the weather's warming up. People are spending more time outside, which means it is the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. They have a massive selection of outdoor essentials, make it easy to transform any space into your ideal setup. Basically, I would love to be in a situation where I've got some outdoor furniture coming in. It's going to be a great situation here over in Denver where got a nice little patio outside, have some outdated furniture, some hand-me-downs from the parents. Would love to get a new selection from Wayfair, and they have plenty of opportunities for you. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online this summer. Get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover. Oh, that was pretty good. That wasn't bad. That was okay. Back out of here, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover. Ryan Blackburn joined here by Rylan Stiles, who was at the arena tonight. If there is a game 7, you might see your boy attending that one, but I assume you're coming to Denver for game 6, right?
Yeah, I'll be heading there. I cannot thank you enough for knocking this out. Peek behind the curtain, recording this at like 3 a.m. Here to do this crossover. That way you're helping me out on the travel day to not have to record there. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I can't wait to be back in Ball Arena game 6. Beautiful arena, beautiful city.
Game 3 was the loudest I've ever heard the arena. It was an unbelievable atmosphere, and we don't do the shirts like you guys. That was a beautiful aesthetic on the broadcast for what it's worth. I don't know what it's like in the arena for that situation, but just unbelievable sights and sounds coming from the broadcast from game 5. So should be another similar environment in game 6, but just with some Denver flair.
Yeah, I think that game 6 should be a rowdy crowd. Again, Denver fans, like, obviously it sucks to lose. And like the emotional roller coaster of losing a playoff game is enormous. I mean, like when the Thunder were down 2-1, it was like the season was over. And now here they sit just a few short games later up 3-2. So I get it. But again, you get the home game and then you have the best player in the world in the game 7. And it's just like that's what it is. And that's all you really need it to be. And like we have jobs because we do dive into the weeds, but sometimes it is just that simple of what to look forward to. Now I'm interested in seeing how Denver response, because I respect the heck out of how they responded to everything this year. We tried to bury them when they fired their coach with 2 games left or whatever.
Yeah, we did.
We tried to bury them. We tried to bury them round 1 after game 3. We tried to bury them whenever they got blown out in game 2 and saying, oh, well, it was the young Thunder that gave away game 1. And now like the Thunder were able to blow them out or whatever. Like they've been like so doubted that I don't think that they're going to just quit in game 6 and not show up. Obviously tonight was tough, and like the parlay Sunday into tonight was really tough, and it's another quick turnaround. Like they still have not gotten consecutive days off since the game 7, and they won't have consecutive days off until they play in another game 7. And unless they play another game 7, they're not getting consecutive days off. Like that's brutal. And you do wonder how much can you take?
Contextualize that for what it's worth. Can we contextualize like how difficult just that kind of schedule, that travel schedule is? This reminds me of the bubble. This reminds me of when everything was condensed and all the playoff teams were playing every other day, other than the break in the middle of it. But like every other day, each of these teams were playing, and it was nuts. They were gassed. They were exhausted. The Clippers wanted to go home clearly when Denver was able to come back from 3-1 against them. So Denver has been in adversity before. This is a team that has been born in the darkness, that has had plenty of opportunities to fail, plenty of opportunities to cower and go away, and they haven't. And I respect the hell out of them for it. You brought up Michael Porter Jr. in the last segment. I agree. It's really tough because we have to analyze what's happening, and he hasn't really provided a lot for the series for Denver. But that game 3 was great, and you just need to piece that together if you're the Nuggets, just from the guys that you have. OKC's lucky that they have, I think, a variety of different options that they can tap into just in case one thing isn't working, 2 things aren't working. But Denver, they've got their guys, and we'll see if those guys are good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come down to if those guys can do it. And I mean, it felt like they had their guys tonight. Whenever that Strother 3 went in, whenever Peyton Watson was just all over the floor, like he was doing a lot of stuff, and most of it ended up being positive, even though he fouled a lot, and like his box score doesn't show. Like the rebound over Caruso when Caruso was pushing him into the corner.
We talked on Locked On Nuggets. We thought that Peyton Watson should have closed tonight,
yes,
instead of Michael Porter or Russell Westbrook.
Because neither one of them were giving you anything from three, but he was electrifying defensively. And it came with fouls because it came with fouls because he was putting himself in position to compete. And other guys weren't fouling because they weren't trying defensively. They weren't helping you defensively. Like he put himself in harm's way because he was so active on that end to me. And we talked about that on our crossover of how I thought that Peyton was going to be able to be a big part of this series. And now in a game 6, do you like feel the pressure of just, hey, your season is quite literally on the line. Now you've got to just close with whoever, forgetting about contracts, forgetting about politics, forgetting about your plan. It's whatever. But I do think that the quick turnaround and like these little chess matches that we've talked about are exactly why, to me, I think that you have your head coach. I mean, talking to him pregame, I asked him about like the mental fatigue along with the physical fatigue. And like one of the things he put in there was so interesting about how you can't give these guys too much on one hand, because you don't want to overload them with only one day to consume it and one day to implement it, and a quick walkthrough. But by that same token that he says that, and I completely agree with him for what it's worth. But then you watch the actual game, and he's getting these guys into multiple different defensive schemes to really throw the Thunder off kilter and really disorient this Thunder offense. And now it's never been an elite half-court offense, but it's been better than this. And a lot of it is because of how he's able to junk it up and go from zone to match man and to all these cross-matching and do all these different things that they're doing to the Thunder's offense. And that's what this quick turnaround in mind. And you didn't have time to prepare on the front end of the series. You haven't had time to prepare during the series that you would like. And he's still getting this out of those guys, and the compete level he's getting out of these guys. I think that from an X's and O standpoint, from a personal standpoint, like I think he's your guy. And no matter how this series ends, whether he comes back and wins it or not.
I like it. I think that Nuggets fans would like to hear that, and I hope that they are enjoying hearing that from an outside perspective. It does just come with the amount of preparedness that you have to have in this moment, and the amount of poise that you have to have in this moment. He had 3 regular season games, then he played a full 7-game series against the Clippers, and now he's against the best team in the league trying to figure out what he's going to do. And it has been stressful. He's clearly he has made mistakes. I think that you can point to a couple of the rotation decisions every single game, but you could do that with every coach. And every fan base has their unfortunate kind of vices that they like to go to in these situations. So it's interesting that you say that. I'm glad to hear that, though. Okay, give me your prediction real quick. Do you think the Nuggets win Game 6?
I do. I really do. I think that the Thunder obviously are going to try to close this out, but the closeout games are the toughest. And I picked the Thunder in 7 before the series, so there's not much reason for me to change it now that you've seen how the series has played out. But I just really believe that Game 3 is closer to what these two teams are on the road, in Ball Arena, than what they are like in Game 4. Because Game 4 was just Chet Holmgren summarized that even after a win, saying that's basically a back-to-back in the playoffs. Like, obviously, you can't legally play a back-to-back in the playoffs, but the turnaround was basically just making them play a back-to-back.
I'm glad that you're saying that, because I think a lot of Nuggets fans have been complaining about and just very unhappy with the way that the league scheduled it. But it does kind of seem like a common sentiment from both teams that this was a pretty unfair situation all the way around.
Oh, it was completely unfair. And the fact that it was the Western Conference team that had to take the top billing of the NBA partnership of, having the first game. It's it should always be the East going first. It was just silly. And you saw it in the product of in the quality of the basketball. I get that you want it to be on the ABC slot and everything, but yes, it's the best team. It's the best matchup unless you don't let it be. It's the best matchup unless you make them play this quick turnaround where both teams shot 24% from 3. Now, does either team have elite marksmen that are very consistent? No, but they're also not 24% from 3 bad at the exact same time, on top of just their shortness on their shots in the mid-range as well. It was just brutal. And so it's that's not who Denver is. And the Thunder aren't that bad either. But Game 3 was still a close game. It went to overtime, but Denver got a lot more shot making from their role players, which is what you come to expect at home. And I think that Jokic is back. I mean, you saw the touch on his shot was the best it's been this series, in my opinion, in Game 5. I think that Jokic is back feeling it. And so I think that he's going to do enough to get this to Game 7.
Well, I'm hopeful. It has been a crazy series for sure. Very excited to see where it goes from here. I will also predict a game 6 win. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think you feel a little bit more comfortable in the mechanisms and the way that it's going to happen, just expecting the role players to come up and show up. Maybe Michael Porter gets back on track. We'll see what happens with that. But like they are going to need one of Christian Brown, one of Russell Westbrook, one of Michael Porter to start hitting their shots. Like it's a fact of nature, and we'll see whether they can do it. Coming up, whoever wins this series, whoever ends up getting out of this is probably going to face the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are up 3-1 in their series against Golden State. How do they handle that? We'll talk about that next on Locked On Crossover. All right, back at it. Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Thunder crossover here. Ryan Blackburn joined by Rylan Stiles. Thank you for doing this, Rylan. It's like 3:10 there. You've got this crazy travel day, but we had to get this up. I know that people have been asking for this one, so very excited to be able to deliver. Give me your thoughts on the Minnesota Timberwolves and the way that they have been able to kind of manage their series.
Yeah, I mean, they've gotten the fortunate of just like dominating the Lakers, which to their credit, they did that. And then, playing the Warriors without Steph, which they can't control. And so they've taken care of business with great maturity, I think. I mean, the fact that they handled that was a tie game, and then Minnesota goes on a 17-0 run to blow that game out of the water the last time that they were on the hardwood. Like that's huge for Minnesota to handle it that way with that maturity of like, hey, if we just end the series right now, doesn't really matter what the Thunder and Nuggets do because at the time that they made that that run, they didn't know if this would be a short series or a long series. It's like we get rest no matter what, as long as we just do this right now. I do think that Minnesota is a formidable foe. I saw a lot of people today tweeting about Game 5 whenever both teams were in the lead. So it wasn't just a Thunder thing or a Nuggets thing. Like when both teams were in the lead, they were like, hey, this is going to be for the NBA Finals. I wouldn't go that far. I think that Minnesota is capable of beating both teams. Yeah. But I do think that whoever wins this series, on top of having home court advantage, would be the favorite. But I do think Minnesota is capable of beating both.
It's hard for Nuggets fans to feel like they're going to be a favorite going into a Minnesota series. Minnesota swept Denver this year, and Denver was trying in all of those games. They could not get over the top against that Minnesota team, and just the athleticism and the physicality and the combination of great defense and spacing offense. Like OKC doesn't have the same level of like spacing offense that the Rudy Gobert rim rolling is the thing, but also just Anthony Edwards pulling up from three is crazy. And Julius Randle, now a matchup problem for a lot of these teams, including Draymond Green. Kind of a surprising thing there. I know that neither of us have really had the opportunity to dig in too closely onto those matchups, but I do think that if Minnesota is the team that comes out of that side of the bracket, they have shown success against the Thunder. They have shown success against the Nuggets. There is an absolutely very real world where we are talking about the Pacers and the T-Wolves in the NBA Finals. And I think that that's insane, personally.
Yeah, I won't go as far as to say that the winner of this Thunder Nuggets series wins the Finals, but I will go as far as to say I think that the West is getting that Finals back from Boston won it last year.
Gosh,
I think that the Finals is going to the Western Conference.
Can we pivot just for a second? The Eastern Conference is a joke, man. All prayers up to Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. That's a horrible situation, of course. The Cavs go out sad against the Pacers. Every other East team goes out sad except the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers. There's just there's no depth there and no level of competition there that the West has had to face. Think about it. Like Denver was the 4 seed this year, and they were battling just to try to stay above water and stay out of the play-in game at the end of the year. They were facing the Clippers, who were also doing the same thing and forced them into a Game 7. The Clippers would be in the Eastern Conference Finals right now.
They would. I mean, they absolutely would. And that's just kind of the state of the league with how they do the conferences and the playoff matchups. Obviously not just sitting at 1 through 16 because of the travel issues that would pop up. But I think that whoever wins will be in store for a great series. I would say that of the two teams, the better team that has a shot to beat Minnesota is the Thunder, only because they just have more stuff to throw at them. Minnesota with the double bigs that they can roll out there, OKC can do the same thing with double bigs. Minnesota can also play really good small ball where it's like Nas is quote unquote small. He's a grown man out there, like making things happen, but he has labeled the small ball, and the Thunder can also play with one center. They can also go extremely small and try to speed you up that way that they haven't had the luxury of doing against Denver, who is playing Jokic almost the entire game.
Yeah, it's tough to go small with J-Dub at the 5 when you're
and that's where Denver would have the advantage over Minnesota. It's like you do in some ways take that option off the table for Minnesota. Now they have single big or double big against you. And if you believe in AG to handle Randall, which I would, like you still feel good. It's just that like for Denver to win this series now, this series has to go to 7 games. And so you've played back-to-back 7-game series. You have to start the Western Conference Finals, and you might get 2 days off in between the travel days, but that's it's going to be every other day besides that to fit in between the East Conference Finals, because the NBA would ideally have to have a game every single day to keep the schedule moving. So it's like, how long can I keep doing this, man? So I'd favor the Thunder from that perspective as well. And I mean, the Thunder also don't need any justification. They're a 68-win team and everything. But
the other thing is that Minnesota's just an exhausting team to face for a lot of reasons. They're going to fight you. They're going to bump you. They're going to be physical. They're going to do kind of like what Denver has tried to do against OKC, kind of drag them down into the mud a little bit. Minnesota does that better than Denver does. And it's going to be very tough for Denver from a physicality and an energy standpoint. And Minnesota, they played a 5-game series against the Lakers. They might play a 5-game series against the Warriors. They're going to be as rested as anybody heading into these conference finals. So it'll be interesting to see which of these teams would be able to do that. Is this season a failure for you if you don't get out of this series?
I think that from where you're at right now, 3-2, and where you were coming in, yes, it would be a complete disappointment, bitterly disappointing failure, if you will, to be 68 wins, be historically great, and have all these indicators of like, you're not just a title contender, you're a title favorite, and then lose in the second round in the same spot that you were, especially when this game was trending in the wrong direction. It's like, not only did you lose in the second round, you lost in the exact same spot in Game 6. I think that if they would have lost this game, it would have been Game 6 again.
I was thinking about that a little bit, and against the everybody's favorite Euro white boy, like it would have been tough.
Yeah, it would have been really tough. And now if you lose the series, it's like, okay, so you had 3-2 and you had 2 chances and you still couldn't do it. It comes with the territory of being this young, unproven team. But yeah, I mean, it would totally be disappointing to see the Thunder miss out. I will say that, if you do lose to the best player in the world, like let's say that the Denver path plays out where they win it at home and the best player in the world pulls it out in the Game 7, there is some patience that you have to have. Obviously, this would be something that you could look back on in 20 years and really regret, because the way that things are shaping out, and this is the case for both teams, like the way that things are shaping out, all that you have left is a 6-7 seed in the West and 2 teams in the East that neither one of us think that they can win the championship. So it's like, how many more times are you going to run into this playoff bracket unfolding this exact way while you're healthy? In OKC's case, you're 100% healthy. In Denver's case, Michael Porter Jr. is banged up. That's tough because of your limited rotation, but that's about it.
Sure.
So I mean, like, it'll be regretful to no matter who loses the series, but for the Thunder, you just look back on what they were doing from a year ago to what they're doing right now, and the competitiveness of the series it's night and day of these young players stepping up and just making an impact on the game. Like even today, J-Dub's box score was terrible. Like if you just look at the box score and didn't watch the game, you would not think that J-Dub had a good game. But the aggression level that he played with and the way that he was able to find his shots and the way that he was able to impact the game defensively and offensively, he was not able to do that against Dallas. So that's like what the difference one single year made. Plus, if you're the Thunder, unlike some teams, you have the luxury of an offseason where you can make almost any move you want to try to correct this. You have that flexibility. But yes, if you now, especially if you blow the 3-2, it'll be so disappointing. It would be a failure and a failed opportunity that you have in front of you.
And well, you almost had the 7th overall pick to wipe those tears away with, but that didn't.
And now it's cost the Thunder 2 picks, that rigged lottery. No, I'm just kidding. It was not rigged, but it was fishy. It was fishy because now the Jazz, whenever the Jazz, lockdown Jazz and David Locke got messed over,
oh man,
the Thunder, there's no chance that they're going to get that Jazz pick next year. The Jazz aren't going to be 9 through 30 next year now if they didn't get Cooper Flag.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough sell. The Western Conference, like Utah's the worst team in the West, and again, they could also probably have challenge for the play-in tournament in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, yeah. If the Jazz wanted to play their guys and they played an East schedule, oh my gosh, they would have been in the play-in. That's how ridiculous that this sport is right now.
They get to bury Charlotte and Washington over and over again. Heck yeah, let's go.
Some teams can't bury Washington, by the way.
Yeah, that is very true. By the way, yeah, no, there's gosh, I don't really have a great comeback for that because you guys won 68. What a loser.
Well, most of the Thunder's losses came to Denver, so you can always throw that out.
That's
there.
true. Yeah, you know what? We've taken four wins off of you guys. That's pretty good. That's more than what most teams can say. Any final thoughts here before we get out of here?
I just think that the final thoughts is this was an incredible series, and I've loved getting to watch it up close and personal and interact with the Locked On Nuggets audience. I mean, a lot of them are very nice. Some of them are very mean, but a lot of them are very nice. And I appreciate the ones that are very nice.
Believe me, I know full well that a lot of them are very nice and some of them are very mean. So we got you. I totally understand it. But hey, he is Rylan Stiles over at Locked On OKC Thunder. I am Ryan Blackburn here at Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for watching Locked On Crossover. We will see what these teams do in Game 6 and maybe Game 7. Should be fun. Thanks for tuning in.